My beloved child, listen carefully, because this is not a random message drifting into your life. This moment has been appointed. Archangel Michael stands beside you right now, and the weight of heaven is heavy in his voice. God is not silent anymore. His patience has been stretched, tested, delayed again and again. And now it has reached its limit. What you are hearing is not anger like humans know anger. It is righteous fire, is holy urgency, and it is aimed directly at a decision you have been postponing. This message is not a coincidence. It will not circle back later. It will not gently knock again. You did not find this by accident. You were summoned. And once this message reached your spirit, responsibility shifted. Heaven is watching what you do next. Archangel Michael is the warrior of truth. And today he does not come with comfort first. He comes with clarity. He says, enough delay. Enough excuses. Enough pretending you did not hear. God hath been patient while you hesitated. While you waited for a sign clearer than obedience. While you asked for confirmation after confirmation. But hear this. This message is the confirmation. Here is something in your life that God warned you above long ago. You felt it in your spirit before you ever saw it with your eyes. You sensed it was wrong, misaligned, draining you, distracting you, or slowly pulling you away from your calling. Yet you stayed silent. You waited. You hoped it would resolve itself. Heaven took note of every warning you ignored, not to punish you, but to measure your readiness. And now, Archangel Michael says, the measuring season is over. Do not misunderstand this moment. God is not against you. He is fighting for you. But he will not force your hand. There is a door that must be shut, and another that can only open when you act. What follows next in your life depends on obedience, not prayer alone. You have prayed enough about this. You have cried enough. You have asked others for advice enough. Now heaven asks you one question. Will you move when God speaks plainly? This is why this message feels heavy. This is why your spirit feels alert. This is why your heart started beating faster the moment you open this. Archangel Michael is standing guard at a crossroads in your destiny. One path leads to delay, repetition, and unnecessary struggle. The other leads to alignment, protection, and release. Both paths are open, but only one is blessed. God says, I warned you quietly. I warned you gently. Now I warn you clearly. There are consequences tied to disobedience, not because God is cruel, but because spiritual laws are real. When you remain where God told you to leave, when you hold on to what he told you to release, when you entertain what he already exposed, you step outside of divine covering. Archangel Michael does not abandon you, but protection operates within obedience. This is why heaven sounds firm today. You may be thinking, why now? Why so intense? Because the next season is dangerous for the unprepared. God is elevating you. But elevation exposes what was hidden. What you tolerate now will sabotage you later. What you excuse now will embarrass you later. What you ignore now will demand a higher price later. Archangel Michael is not sent to scare you. He is sent to shield you. But shields must be lifted intangibly. God says, this delay has already cost you peace, clarity, and momentum. You will not allow it to cost you your destiny. Pay attention. This message will not repeat itself, not because God stopped speaking, but because after this, heaven waits for your response. Silence after instruction is still a response. You are not weak for feeling conflicted. You are not faithless for feeling afraid. But you will be responsible if you pretend you did not hear. That is why this message says, open this now or bear full responsibility for what follows. Responsibility does not mean condemnation. It means ownership. You now know what God requires. Archangel Michael says, there are angels already assigned to assist you once you move. Doors are prepared. Help is staged. Belief is waiting. But none of it activates while you stand still. Heaven moves with motion. Right now, God is asking you to choose reverence over comfort, obedience over familiarity, truth over delay. Take this seriously, not with fear, but with honor. Because when God speaks this directly, it means He still believes in you. He still trusts you. He still sees what you can become once this weight is removed. This is the moment where everything begins to shift, but only if you respond. And this is only the beginning of what heaven needs you to understand today. Beloved one, now that you have heard the weight of heaven's warning, Archangel Michael draws closer, not to threaten you, but to explain what is truly at stake. Many misunderstand divine anger. They think it means God has turned away. But listen carefully. When God is silent, that is distance. When God speaks firmly, that is involvement. And today, heaven is deeply involved in your life. Archangel Michael says, the reason this feels so intense is because you are standing at the edge of a transition that will not wait forever. God had been preparing you quietly behind the scenes long before you realized it. Every delay, every closed door, every strange interruption was not punishment. It was restraint. God was holding things back so you would not step forward unprepared. But restraint cannot last forever. There is a pattern you must recognize. Each time God nudged you to change, something distracted you. Each time He urged you to let go, fear whispered excuses. Each time truth surfaced, comfort convinced you to postpone action. And heaven watched, not with anger at first, but with patience. Yet patience without obedience eventually becomes resistance. Archangel Michael reveals that what you are dealing with is not small. It is not just a phase. It is not something that will fix itself. It is a spiritual issue wrapped in natural circumstances. That is why logic alone has not solved it. That is why advice from people has only gone so far. This situation requires alignment, not analysis. God says you already know what must change. If you are honest with yourself, the answer rose in your spirit the moment this message began. You may not like it. You may fear the consequences. You may wonder how things will look afterward. But uncertainty after obedience is safer than comfort in disobedience. Archangel Michael stands as a witness in this moment. In Scripture, he appears when battles shift, when destinies are defended, when God's order must be restored. His presence here means a confrontation is necessary, not with people, but with truth. Something false has been allowed too close to your heart, and it has weakened your spiritual posture. God says this is why your prayers have felt heavy lately. Not unanswered, just resisted. Heaven does not ignore prayer, but it responds to alignment. When prayer and action contradict each other, progress slows. This is not to shame you. It is to awaken you. There is also something else our Archangel Michael wants you to understand. The delay has not only affected you, it has affected those connected to you. Your obedience is larger than your comfort. Your decision releases protection over others. Your hesitation creates gaps the enemy tries to exploit. This is why heaven is urgent. Now, do not mistake this message as condemnation. Condemnation pushes you away. Conviction draws you closer, and this message is drawing you into clarity. God says, I am not asking for perfection. I am asking for movement. Even one step in obedience realigns more than months of attention. Archangel Michael also reveals that once you move, resistance will try to rise, not because you are wrong, but because something benefits from you staying where you are. Do not interpret resistance as failure. Resistance is often confirmation. When you disrupt spiritual stagnation, pressure responds. You are not alone in this. Angels are already assigned to strengthen your resolve, but they cannot override your will. Heaven honors choice. That is why this message places responsibility in your hands. Responsibility is power, not burden. God knows what you are afraid of losing. He knows what you think obedience might cost you, but he also knows what disobedience has already been costing you quietly. Peace, confidence, spiritual authority, clarity of purpose. Those losses were not meant to become permanent. Archangel Michael says, the next phase of your life requires a cleaner environment spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Old attachments cannot survive new assignments. Old patterns cannot follow you into new levels. God is not stripping you to harm you. He is lightening you to lift you. This is why this message did not come softly. Soft whispers were ignored. Gentle nudges were postponed. Now heaven speaks plainly because time matters. There is a window open that will not stay open indefinitely. Opportunities in the spirit are seasonal. Missed seasons do not always return in the same form. Yet there is hope. Strong hope. God would not warn you if he had already decided to withdraw. He warns because he intends to protect. He corrects because he intends to elevate. He confronts because he intends to restore. Archangel Michael says once you obey, peace will follow quickly. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you will be positioned correctly. Right position brings right support. Right alignment brings right protection. Let this sink in. Do not rush past this moment. Something is shifting internally even as you listen. This is heaven, preparing you for what comes next. And what comes next will require courage, honesty, and action. What you are hearing now is not the end of the message. He is the deepening of it. And what follows will explain why this decision carries eternal weight, not just temporary consequence. Chosen one, receive this with reverence, because Archangel Michael is now revealing why heaven's tone has shifted from patience to urgency. This is not just about a single decision. It is about authority. God is restoring authority to your life. But authority cannot rest on compromised ground. What he is asking you to release is directly connected to the power you have been praying to receive. Archangel Michael says many people ask God for elevation without realizing elevation requires exposure. When God lifts you, what was hidden becomes visible. That is why he is addressing this now, before the next door opens fully. He refuses to promote what will later need to be corrected publicly. Correction in private is mercy. Exposure in public is consequence. Today, mercy is still available. You are not being confronted because you failed. You are being confronted because you are chosen. Average lives do not receive this level of warning. Ordinary paths do not require angelic intervention. The fact that Archangel Michael is involved tells you this situation has spiritual weight far beyond what you can see naturally. God says there has been a quiet battle around your discernment. Not to destroy you, but to dull you. Little compromises, small justifications, harmless-looking delays. None of them dramatic enough to alarm you, yet powerful enough to slow you. Heaven allowed this time, watching to see if you would self-correct. But now divine intervention steps in. This is where responsibility becomes sacred. God is not asking you to fix everything at once. He is asking you to take the first obedient step without negotiating the outcome. Faith is not knowing how it will end. Faith is moving when God speaks clearly. Archangel Michael reveals that once you act, a chain reaction begins. What felt stuck will loosen. What felt confusing will clarify. What felt heavy will lift. Not because life becomes perfect, but because resistance loses legal ground. Spiritual resistance feeds on hesitation. When you move, it stars. Understand this clearly. Heaven is not angry because you struggled. Heaven is firm because you lingered. There is a difference. God is patient with weakness, but he confronts prolonged disobedience because it blocks destiny. Delay has an expiration date, and that date has arrived. There are angels assigned to guard your next step, but they cannot protect what you refuse to release. Archangel Michael does not fight battles you insist on staying inside. Protection follows obedience and not intention. This truth is uncomfortable, but it is liberating. You may feel a stirring in your spirit right now, a mix of conviction and relief. That is not fear. That is a lime and returning. When truth enters, confusion leaves. When clarity comes, excuses lose their power. This message also carries a promise. God says, once you respond correctly, you will accelerate what was delayed. Time lost will be redeemed. Strength drained will be restored. Wisdom gained through struggle will not be wasted. Nothing you endured was meaningless, but it cannot continue unchanged. Now hear this carefully. What you choose after this message determines whether heaven's warning becomes heaven's protection. The same fire that corrects can also defend. The same authority that confronts can also cover. The difference is obedience. If this message is speaking to you, do not internalize it quietly. Alignment grows stronger when acknowledged. Let your agreement be visible. Engage with this moment. Let heaven know you are responding, not just listening. Share this message so others who are standing at their own crossroads can receive clarity. Add your voice in the comments as a witness that you heard and understood. Stay connected here, because what is being released is not for one moment. It is for a season. Archangel Michael says, hold on, because what is about to be revealed next will explain how to move without fear and how to recognize the exact step God is asking of you. This is where understanding turns into action, and you will want to hear this. Type, I receive divine correction in the comments if this message has reached your spirit. Blessing code 914 has just been released. And hear this as the Spirit speaks directly to you. Now, if this word has stirred your heart, it is because it was meant to travel further than just you. I am asking you as a vessel, as a watchman to help this fire reach other souls standing in silence. When you release a super thanks, when you step into membership, or when you sow through PayPal from the description, you are not supporting a channel. You are lighting lamps in dark places. God says, "Whoever sows into my warning will reap my covering." This seed is urgent because the harvest is souls who need awakening now, not later. I speak blessing over every giver. May your obedience open rivers. May your generosity call down protection. May your seed return multiplied. Do it now as an act of alignment, not convenience. Beloved child. Now, Archangel Michael shifts the focus from warning to wisdom because heaven does not expose without also instructing. God knows that clarity without guidance can feel overwhelming. So he speaks again calmly, precisely, and with purpose. This is the part where fear must leave because fear clouds discernment. What God is asking you to do is not reckless. It is calculated, protected and already prepared for. Archangel Michael says, the reason you have been hesitant is not because you lack faith, but because you have been trying to see the entire path before taking the first step. That is not how divine movement works. God reveals steps, not full maps. He releases like for today, not visibility for years ahead. Wanting full certainty before obedience is a human instinct, but it delays spiritual progress. Heaven wants you to understand that obedience is not grammatic all at once. It often begins quietly, with one internal decision that no one else sees. A shift in agreement, a withdrawal of permission, a silent but firm no more in your spirit. That internal realignment is what activates external change. Archangel Michael reveals that some of what you fear losing is already unstable. You have been holding something together through effort, compromise, or silence. And deep down you know it cannot last. God is not taking something solid from you. He is removing what cannot sustain the future he has planned. What collapses after obedience was never meant to stand. God says you are not responsible for how others react to your obedience. You are only responsible for your response to his voice. People may misunderstand your decision. Some may resist it. Others may question your timing. But heaven measures obedience, not approval. Peace does not come from pleasing people. It comes from alignment with God. Archangel Michael also speaks about timing. You may feel late. You may feel like you should have acted sooner. Release that guilt now. God is not bound by your delays. He redeems time when hearts realign. The moment you obey, heaven recalibrates the timeline. What felt delayed begins to move with surprising speed. This is also why you must not over-explain yourself. Obedience does not require justification to everyone. Some shifts are meant to be quiet. Over-explaining can reopen doors God is closing. Silence, when guided by wisdom, is protection. Archangel Michael warns gently that after you act, there may be moments of emotional discomfort. Familiar patterns will protest. Old attachments will try to pull you back. This does not mean you made the wrong decision. It means separation is working. God says you will recognize alignment not by excitement alone, but by clarity. Even if emotions fluctuate, your spirit will feel settled. Confusion lifts when you are positioned correctly. Noise quiets when you are under divine order. Here is also something important. Heaven wants you to release the belief that obedience must hurt to be valid. That is not true. Obedience can be firm and still gentle. Boundaries can be set without cruelty. Truth can be honored without chaos. God is not calling you into destruction. He is calling you into order. Archangel Michael reminds you that protection does not always look like avoidance. Sometimes, protection looks like confrontation that prevents greater loss later. God confronts now, so you are not broken later. This is love expressed through discipline, not anger expressed through punishment. You are also being prepared for discernment at a higher level. After this decision, you will notice your sensitivity sharpen. You will detect misalignment faster. What once took months to realize will become clear in moments. That is a gift, not a burden. Do not rush the process, but do not resist it either. Move steadily. Pray simply. Obey clearly. Heaven responds best to uncomplicated obedience. Archangel Michael says something powerful here. Once you step out of this delay, you will realize how much energy it consumed. You will feel lighter, stronger, more present. That relief is not coincidence. It is confirmation. God is not asking you to be fearless. He is asking you to be faithful. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement despite it. And heaven honors that movement. This is the moment where warning turns into wisdom. And wisdom prepares you for reward. What comes next will explain how God replaces what is released, not with emptiness, but with something greater, purer, and more aligned than what you are letting go of. Stay receptive. The unfolding is not finished yet. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now reveals what many fear to ask. What comes after obedience? This is where misunderstanding often lives. People assume that when God asks them to release something, the space that follows will feel empty or unstable. But heaven does not create vacuums. God replaces. He restores. He realigns. And what he brings next is always shaped by what you were willing to surrender. Archangel Michael says, the reason God is so precise in this season is because what is coming next is delicate. It cannot be poured into a compromised vessel or built on a fractured foundation. God is not withholding blessing. He is protecting it. If he allowed the next level to arrive before this correction, it would collapse under the weight of unresolved issues. You may not fully see it yet, but the obedience God is asking of you is directly connected to provision, clarity, and peace. These three often arrive together when alignment is restored. Provision does not only mean finances. It means access. It means help arriving at the right moment. It means doors opening without strain. Clarity follows obedience because confusion feeds on inner conflict. Peace follows alignment because your spirit is no longer divided. Archangel Michael speaks gently now because reassurance is needed. He says, you will not be left exposed. God does not call you out of something without calling you into something else. Even when the next step is not immediately visible, it is already prepared. Heaven prepares replacements before removals. There is also a deeper healing attached to this transition. God is addressing patterns that repeat, not just situations that hurt. He is breaking cycles that kept reappearing in different forms. The same lesson no longer needs to return once it is learned through obedience. This is how spiritual maturity forms, not by avoiding struggle, but by responding correctly to instruction. You may notice after obedience that your tolerance changes. What once felt normal will feel heavy. What once seemed acceptable will feel misaligned. This is not judgment. It is growth. Your spiritual senses are recalibrating. God is teaching you to protect your peace before it is threatened. not after it is stolen. Archangel Michael also reveals that some relationships may naturally shift after this decision. Not all separation is rejection. Sometimes distance is simply alignment, correcting itself. When paths diverge, it does not always mean someone was wrong. It often means seasons have changed. Forcing old connections to fit new seasons creates strain. God wants you to release the need to monitor outcomes constantly. Obedience is not maintained by anxiety. Once you move, trust the process. Watch with discernment, not suspicion. Faith does not hover. It rests. There will be moments when your mind tries to revisit the past. It will question whether obedience was necessary. This is normal, but Archangel Michael says, do not entertain backward glances. Looking back weakens forward momentum. Lot's wife did not stumble because she left. She stumbled because she looked back with longing. God does not want you emotionally tethered to what He has already closed. Something important is also being restored within you. Confidence in your ability to hear God. Prolonged delay can make you doubt your discernment. Obedience rebuilds trust between you and heaven. Each aligned step strengthens that trust. Soon you will recognize God's voice faster and respond with less hesitation. Archangel Michael emphasizes that your future decisions will not require this level of intensity. This is a foundational correction. Once foundations are set, building becomes smoother. God deals firmly with roots, so branches can grow freely. Do not expect instant perfection after obedience. Growth still takes time. But expect direction to become clear. Expect resistance to weaken. Expect strength to return. These are signs that alignment has taken hold. God also says to pay attention to small confirmations after you act. Subtle peace. I expect an encouragement. A sense of relief you cannot explain. These are heaven's ways of affirming your step. Not everything God does arrives loudly. You are being repositioned, not just removed. Repositioned into a place where your prayers carry more authority. Your words carry more weight, and your presence carries more peace. That repositioning required this moment of truth. Archangel Michael concludes this segment with assurance. You are not late. You are not abandoned. And you are not being punished. You are being corrected because you are protected. God disciplines those He intends to entrust with more. What comes next will speak about how to remain steady after obedience, how to guard what God restores, and how to walk forward without reopening doors that were closed for your good. This journey is unfolding carefully, and heaven is guiding every step. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks about stability, because obedience is not only about making a decision, it is about sustaining it. Many move once, but then drift back emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Heaven does not want you to return to the place God just brought you out of. This is the stage where consistency becomes protection. After obedience, there is often a quiet face. Not dramatic, not loud, just still. This is where God strengthens your roots. Do not mistake silence for absence. Silence after obedience is often confirmation that alignment has been restored. God is allowing your spirit to settle into its new position. Archangel Michael says, the enemy's most common tactic after obedience is subtle doubt. Thoughts like, was this really necessary or did I overreact, may surface. These thoughts are not truth. They are residue. Residue fades when it is not entertained. You do not need to argue with every thought. Some thoughts lose power simply by being ignored. Heaven wants you to build new spiritual habits in this season. Not heavy rituals, but intentional awareness. Pay attention to what strengthens you and what drains you. Guard your time. Guard your words. Guard your inner dialogue. Protection is no longer only external, it is now internal. God says something important here. Do not romanticize what He helped you escape. Memory can distort reality. It highlights comfort and forgets cause. When temptation to revisit arises, remind yourself why heaven intervenes so firmly. You were not rescued for nostalgia. You were rescued for purpose. Archangel Michael also speaks about community. You do not need many voices, but you need the right ones. Alignment often reduces noise. Fewer opinions. Clearer diction. You not feel lonely if your circle feels smaller. Pruning is part of growth. God removes distractions so you can hear Him clearly. This is also a season to stay connected to where you are being fed spiritually. Messages like this are not meant to be consumed once and forgotten. They are anchors. Revisit them. Let them reinforce your resolve. Spiritual momentum grows through reinforcement. If this message has been helping you, do not keep it to yourself. Alignment multiplies when shared. When you like this video, when you comment with your agreement, when you share it with someone who is struggling with delay or hesitation, you are participating in the work heaven is doing right now. Stay connected by subscribing and turning on notifications, because what is being released is progressive. Each word builds on the last. Archangel Michael says there are others watching silently who need this same clarity. Your engagement helps this message reach them at the exact moment they need it. This is not about numbers. It is about timing. God also reminds you not to rush replacements. Let Him fill the space naturally. Forced substitutes create new problems. Divine replacements arrive with peace, not pressure. If something is meant to come next, it will not require compromise to obtain. You may notice your discernment sharpening even more. Situations that once confused, you will feel obvious. Address that clarity. Second-guessing clarity is how people slip back into cycles. Confidence grows through practice. Archangel Michael reassures you that setbacks do not erase obedience. If you stumble emotionally, do not panic. Realign quickly. Guilt prolongs misalignment. Repentance restores position. God is not fragile. He does not withdraw because of momentary weakness. This is also a season to speak less and listen more. Let your life reflect your decision before your words explain it. Fruit convinces more than arguments. Peace is the loudest testimony. God says something powerful now. The protection you are under will increase as you remain consistent. What once drained you will no longer have access. What once confused you will no longer control you. This is not because you became stronger alone. It is because alignment invites reinforcement. Archangel Michael wants you steady, not anxious, focused, not scattered, grounded, not reactive. This stability is preparing you for the next level of responsibility God intends to entrust to you. Hold on, because the next revelation will explain why this obedience positions you for favor that could not reach you before. What is opening next will make sense of everything heaven has corrected so far. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now unveils the reason heaven has guarded this process so carefully. What you have stepped into through obedience is not just peace, it is positioning. Favor does not chase people who are misaligned. Favor flows to places God has ordered. And now you are standing in a position where divine favor can finally locate you without obstruction. Many people misunderstand favor. They think it is random blessing or sudden luck. But favor is precision. It is God arranging moments, people and opportunities so they converge at the right time. That level of orchestration requires alignment. One unresolved compromise could disrupt the entire flow. That is why heaven insisted on correction before release. Archangel Michael says something has been trying to reach you for a long time. But it could not land where you were standing. Not because God withheld it, but because the environment was not safe. You were protected from receiving something too early that could have been mishandled, misunderstood, or misused. Delay was not denial. It was divine timing, enforced by mercy. Now that alignment has been restored, movement begins quietly. Do not expect fireworks immediately. Favor often enters subtly. A conversation that feels casual, an opportunity that seems small, a door that opens without resistance. These are not coincidences. They are signs that heaven's order is active again. Archangel Michael also reveals that favor attracts attention. Not all of it positive. This is why stability was emphasized before advancement. When favor becomes visible, so does scrutiny. God prepares character before exposure, so success does not become a snare. You are being built to carry what is coming without losing yourself in it. There is also a refinement happening, and how you discern opportunities. Not every open door is divine. Favor does not mean yes to everything. It means clarity to choose correctly. You will notice that some offers no longer excite you, even if they look good on the surface. That is discernment maturing. Trusted. God says something important here. Do not announce everything that is forming. Some blessings grow best in silence. Premature exposure invites interference. Let God complete what He is doing before you share it widely. But is protected in private, stand stronger in public. Archangel Michael emphasizes humility in this season. Favor rests comfortably on humility. Pride makes blessing heavy. Gratitude keeps favor flowing. Acknowledge God quietly. Stay teachable. Stay grounded. Elevation without humility creates distance from God, but elevation with humility deepens intimacy. You may also notice an increased sense of responsibility. Favor is not just for enjoyment, it is for stewardship. God does not bless people to elevate ego. He blesses people to expand impact. This does not mean pressure. It means purpose. You will sense where to invest your time, energy, and attention more wisely. Archangel Michael says, your words carry more weight now. Be mindful of what you speak over yourself and others. Alignment sharpens spiritual authority. What you declare matters. Avoid speaking doubt casually. Avoid entertaining negativity lightly. Your environment responds to your language more than before. This is also a season where God may ask you to act before you feel fully ready. Favor often requires faith-based movement. Readiness is not always emotional comfort. It is spiritual alignment. You are more prepared than you think, because heaven prepared you quietly while you were waiting. Do not compare your pace to others. Favor is personal. Your timing is unique. Comparison dilutes gratitude and clouds discernment. What God is doing with you does not need to look like anyone else's journey to be valid. Archangel Michael reassures you that mistakes ahead will not cancel favor if your heart remains aligned. God factors in growth. He corrects gently now because foundations are set. Correction after alignment is instruction, not warning. There is a difference. You are also being invited into deeper trust. Favor does not mean controlling outcomes. It means releasing outcomes to God while staying obedient in action. Anxiety tightens grip. Trust loosens it. Loose hands receive more. Pay attention to peace. Peace will be your confirmation moving forward. Not excitement, not urgency. Peace. If something requires you to violate peace to obtain it, pause. Favor does not rush you into compromise. It guides you with clarity. Archangel Michael concludes this message with assurance. The season you entered through obedience will sustain you if you remain attentive. Favor is not fragile when alignment is maintained. What God releases now is meant to stay. What comes next will speak about protection in this new level. How heaven shields what it blesses, and how Archangel Michael continues to stand guard as you move forward. This journey is still unfolding, and the revelation is not finished. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now steps forward as protector, because favor without protection becomes vulnerability. Heaven never elevates without assigning guardians. What God has released into your life is valuable, and value always attracts attention. That is why divine protection is being emphasized now more than ever. Archangel Michael is not only the warrior who confronts darkness, he is the Garan who stands watch when others cannot see. He says you are entering a phase where not everything that approaches you should be entertained. Discernment will be your shield, and obedience will be your covering. Protection do not always look like walls. Sometimes it looks like wisdom that says no. God says you will notice fewer dramatic battles but more subtle ones. Distractions. Invitations that look harmless. Opportunities that feel good but lead nowhere. This is where maturity is tested. Not every battle requires confrontation. Some require restraint. Walking away is sometimes the strongest form of protection. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven has placed limits around you. Things that once had access will now find resistance. Conversations that used to drain you will lose influence. Situations that once pulled you off course will feel uncomfortable to stay in. This is not isolation. It is insulation. You are not being pulled away from people. You are being preserved for purpose. Preservation often feels like separation before it feels like safety. Trust this process. God knows exactly what needs to be kept closed and what needs to be kept out. There is also protection over your mind being strengthened. Confusion will not linger like it used to. Intrusive thoughts will have less power. Fear-based imagination will lose momentum. This is because alignment restored authority, and authority establishes order. Archangel Michael wants you to understand that spiritual protection works through agreement. When you agree with God's instruction, you stand under heaven's covering. When you override instruction, you step outside of it. This is not punishment. It is principle. Stay in agreement, and protection remains active. You may sense a stronger check in your spirit before certain decisions. Pay attention to that. That is not anxiety. That is guidance. The Holy Spirit often warns before danger appears. Ignoring those nudges weakens protection. Honoring them strengthens it. God also says, do not test protection unnecessarily. Wisdom avoids danger. It does not flirt with it. You do not need to prove your strength by revisiting old environments or conversations. Freedom does not require demonstration. It requires consistency. Archangel Michael speaks peace into this moment. You are not being watched with suspicion. You are being watched with care. Heaven is not waiting for you to fail. Heaven is actively guarding your progress, even when you sleep. Protection does not pause. This is also a season where prayer becomes simpler. You do not need to fight for protection. You rest in it. Gratitude replaces fear. Trust replaces striving. When you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself, God would not bring you this far to withdraw covering now. There will be moments when protection feels like delay. Doors may pause. Plans may slow. Do not assume something is wrong. Sometimes God delays movement to keep you safe from unseen consequences. What feels like inconvenience may be interception. Archangel Michael also reveals that some people will drift away quietly during this season. This is protection too. Not everyone who enters the next phase with you is meant to stay. Release them without bitterness. Protection does not argue. It allows distance. God says, you are not losing support. You are gaining safety. What remains will be stronger, surer, and more line. As this protection settles, you will know is a deeper sense of peace even in uncertainty. That peace is your indicator that heaven is close. Fear may knock, but it will not stay. Anxiety may whisper, but it will not rule. Archangel Michael stands guard over what God has restored. You are not exposed. You are not unprotected. You are covered as long as you remain aligned. Seal this truth now. Type, I am divinely guarded in the comments if this message confirms what you feel in your spirit. Blessing code 621 has just been released. If this word has strengthened you, it is because it was meant to strengthen others through you. I am calling you to act as a carrier of this protection by supporting this divine assignment. When you release a super thanks, step into membership or so through PayPal in the description. You are placing oil in the lamp that keeps this warning and protection reaching souls on time. God says those who fund my watchmen will never lack covering. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic response. I bless every giver now. May protection surround your household. May angels stand at your doors. May heaven defend what concerns you. Act now in obedience and let your seeds speak in the Spirit. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now speaks about vigilance because protection must be maintained through awareness. You are covered. Yes. But covering works best when the one being protected stays attentive. Heaven is not calling you into fear. It is calling you into discernment. There is a difference. Fear panics. Discernment observes. This is the stage where many people relax too much and unknowingly reopen doors, not because they intend to, but because familiarity returns. Life begins to feel normal again. Pressure eases, and slowly the seriousness of what God just corrected can fade from memory. That is why this message continues to anchor you before routine dulls your sensitivity. Archangel Michael says, vigilance does not mean suspicion of everyone and everything. It means staying aligned internally. When your inner agreement with God remains strong, external threats lose power. Most spiritual breaches do not happen suddenly. They happen gradually through small allowances that seem harmless. God wants you to be especially mindful of your emotional state. Fatigue, disappointment, or loneliness can make old patterns feel attractive again. This is not weakness. It is human. But awareness keeps vulnerability from becoming regression. When emotions dip, lean into prayer and rest. Not old coping mechanisms. You may notice that temptations now come disguised as reasonable thoughts like it's not that serious anymore. Where I've grown, I can handle this now may appear. Archangel Michael warns gently. Growth does not require revisiting what got close. Maturity knows when something no longer deserves access. Evan also speaks about boundaries in this season. Boundaries are not walls of rejection. They are lines of honor. They protect what God has entrusted to you. You do not need to explain your boundaries to everyone. Over-explaining often weakens them. A quiet, consistent boundary speaks for itself. God says, your peace is a signal system. When peace withdraws, pause. Do not rush forward trying to force clarity. Peace is not the reward at the end. It is the guide along the way. Losing peace is often heaven saying, look again. Archangel Michael also reminds you that vigilance includes gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart soft and your perspective clear. Ungratefulness blinds discernment. When people forget what God delivered them from, they underestimate what they were protected from. Remembering keeps you grounded. This is also a season to watch your words carefully. Casual negativity, self-criticism, or joking about returning to old ways may seem harmless. But words carry agreement. Speak in alignment with where God has brought you, not where you came from. Language reinforces identity. You may encounter people who question your change. Some will not recognize the difference in you because it convicts what they are unwilling to address. Do not shrink to make others comfortable. You were not corrected by heaven to fit back into old expectations. Archangel Michael reassures you that vigilance does not mean tension. You are not on edge. You are alert. Alertness is calm. Tension is anxious. If you feel anxious, return to prayer and rest. God's protection does not require nervous energy. There is also a call to consistency in spiritual intake. Do not starve yourself spiritually now that things feel stable. Stability is sustained by nourishment. Stay connected to messages, scripture, and environments that keep your spirit sharp. Neglect does not show immediately, but it shows eventually. God says something very important here. You are not being tested to see if you will fail. You are being trained to see how far you have come. Situations that once overwhelmed you will now feel manageable. That is progress. Acknowledge it without pride. Archangel Michael also speaks about timing. Again, not every opportunity requires immediate response. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to pray before answering. Rush decisions often bypass discernment. Favor does not disappear because you take time to seek God. As you walk forward, expect clarity to come in layers. God rarely reveals everything at once. Each step confirms the next. This keeps you dependent, not distant. Dependence on God is not weakness. It is wisdom. Be especially careful not to confuse peace with complacency. Peace keeps you aligned. Complacency makes you careless. The difference is intentionality. Stay intentional with your choices, even simple ones. Archangel Michael says, this vigilance will not exhaust you. It will empower you. When discernment becomes natural, it no longer feels like effort. It feels like instinct. You are developing spiritual instinct. Now hold this close, because the next revelation will speak about reward. Not material reward alone, but the deep internal reward God gives those who obey. Remain aligned and stay watchful. What comes next will connect everything you have walked through so far. Stay with this moment. You will be glad you did. Beloved child. Archangel Michael now speaks about reward because heaven never corrects without restoring, never warns without rewarding obedience. But this reward is not shallow or temporary, is deep, internal and lasting. It is the kind of reward that changes how you move through life, how you respond to pressure, and how you recognize God's voice with confidence. God says, many people chase visible blessings while neglecting internal inheritance. But the first reward of obedience is not what you gain outwardly. It is who you become inwardly. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is more grounded, more discerning, and more spiritually authoritative than before. That transformation cannot be taken from you. Archangel Michael reveals that one of the greatest rewards you are receiving is spiritual clarity. Confusion no longer has the same grip. You may still face questions, but they will not paralyze you. Decisions will come with less turmoil. You will notice yourself hesitating less and trusting more. That confidence is not arrogance. It is alignment settling into place. Here is also a reward of emotional stability being released. Where you once felt easily shaken, you will now feel anchored. This does not mean life stops challenging you. It means challenges stop defining you. Stability is a gift many overlook. Yet, it is one of heaven's most powerful rewards. God says peace will now follow you instead of you chasing it. Situations that once stole your rest will no longer have the same access. Even when circumstances are uncertain, your inner posture will remain steady. That steadiness is not accidental. It is cultivated through obedience. Archangel Michael also speaks of restored authority in prayer. Your prayers will feel different now. Not louder, clearer, not longer, sharper. You will sense when heaven is responding, and you will recognize when to wait. Authority in prayer grows when the heart is aligned. You may also notice that people respond to you differently. Some will seek your counsel. Others will feel uncomfortable around your clarity. This is not because you changed personalities. It is because alignment carries weight. Light does not announce itself. It simply exposes what is present. God says another reward is discernment without exhaustion. You will not need to overanalyze every situation anymore. Truth will surface faster. Motives will become clearer. It saves energy. Spiritual maturity reduces strain. Do not dismiss these rewards because they are quiet. Quiet rewards are often the most enduring. Loud blessings attract attention. Deep blessings sustain life. God gives both, but He prioritizes the ones that protect you long term. Archangel Michael also reassures you that tangible blessings will follow in proper time. Provision, opportunity, and advancement are part of God's plan, but they arrive in order, not chaos. Now that alignment is restored, those things can reach you safely. As this unfolds, stay connected. Do not isolate yourself spiritually. Engage where you are being fed. If this message has been strengthening you, let that connection remain active. When you like this video, when you share it, when you leave your voice in the comments, you are not just supporting content, you are affirming alignment. Stay subscribed and stay attentive because heaven builds progressively, not randomly. Archangel Michael says there are others still standing at the edge of obedience who need this clarity. Your engagement helps this work reach them at the exact moment heaven intends. This is how obedience multiplies beyond one life. God also reminds you not to rush the harvest. Growth is happening even when it is not obvious. Roots grow before fruit shows. Trust the timing. Rushing maturity weakens sustainability. You are entering a season where gratitude will unlock more than striving ever did. Thank God for what has changed internally. Thank Him for what did not destroy you. Thank Him for what He corrected before it cost you more. Gratitude keeps reward flowing. Archangel Michael emphasizes that reward does not remove responsibility. With clarity comes stewardship. With peace comes protection. With authority comes humility. Stay teachable. Stay prayerful. Stay aligned. This is not the end of the message. It is the nearing of completion. What comes next will speak about legacy, impact, and how this moment of obedience echoes beyond just your own life. Heaven never works in isolation. Your obedience carries ripple effects. Hold on. What is about to be revealed next connects everything. The warning, the correction, the protection, and the reward, into one final understanding. You will want to receive this with full attention. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now speaks of legacy because heaven never works only for a moment. It works across generations, across timelines you may never fully see. What you obeyed was not just a personal correction, that within generational interruption, God stepped in where patterns were trying to repeat, and through your obedience, something stopped with you. Many people think legacy is built only through success, visibility, or material impact, but heaven defines legacy differently. Legacy begins with alignment. It begins when one person chooses obedience over comfort, truth over delay, and courage over fear. The choice sends a signal into the spiritual realm that changes what follows after you. Archangel Michael reveals that some struggles you faced were not meant to be passed down. Cycles of confusion, compromise, emotional instability, or spiritual dullness were looking for continuity. Obedience broke that continuity. Even if you never speak about it publicly, heaven records it eternally. God says, there are people connected to your life, some born, some not yet born, who will benefit from a clarity they never had to fight for. They will walk lighter because you chose alignment. Now this is how legacy forms quietly without applause. You may not feel heroic. You may still feel ordinary. But heaven does not measure obedience by emotion. It measures by impact. What felt like a difficult decision to you was a decisive victory in the spirit. Archangel Michael also speaks about influence. Influence is not always authority over many. Sometimes it is protection over a few. Your obedience has shifted atmospheres in ways you cannot calculate. Rooms will feel different when you enter. Conversations will change tone. Certain conflicts will dissolve before forming. This is not coincidence. It is spiritual alignment carrying weight. God says, you are now entrusted with discernment, not just for yourself, but for others who will seek your perspective. This does not mean you must have all answers. It means your presence carries calm. Wisdom often arrives through peace, not instruction. There will be moments when you wonder if this path was worth it. Those moments usually come when progress is quiet. But remember this: heaven values consistency more than excitement. Steady obedience builds stronger legacies than dramatic gestures. Archangel Michael reassures you that your obedience has been sealed. What was corrected will not return in the same form. You may still grow, still adjust, to still learn. But the old grip is broken. A chaffee has lost authority. God also says, do not underestimate the power of example. People learn more from how you live than from what you explain. Your boundaries teach. Your peace teaches. Your discernment teaches. Even silence teaches when it is rooted in alignment. You are being shaped into someone who does not react impulsively, who does not compromise easily, who does not confuse urgency with obedience. That kind of character becomes a refuge for others, even when you are unaware of it. Archangel Michael speaks gently now, because reassurance matters. You are not carrying this legacy alone. Heaven supports what heaven initiates. You are not expected to maintain perfection. You are expected to remain aligned. When missteps happen, realignment is available. Grace is still active. God says the warning you received at the beginning was severe because the outcome is significant. I call and invites clear correction. Strong futures require firm foundations. Nothing about this was random. As this journey nears its conclusion, reflect on how much has already shifted inside you. Awareness has sharpened. Peace has deepened. Fear has loosened its grip. These are not small changes. They are evidence of transformation. Archangel Michael wants you to remember one final truth before the message completes. Obedience is not a one-time event, is a post-you, and you have stepped into that posture. Now each aligned decision reinforces the next. The responsibility mentioned at the beginning of this message was never meant to burden you. It was meant to empower you. Responsibility is the doorway to authority. You step through it. What remains now is sealing, confirmation, blessing, the final release that brings closure to this moment and sends you forward covered, protected, and aware. Receive what comes next with openness. This is where heaven speaks not in warning, but in assurance. My beloved child, this is the sealing moment. Archangel Michael stands still now, not with a sword raised, but with authority settled. What heaven warned you about has been addressed. What God required has been acknowledged. And now what follows is not threat but confirmation. This message did not come to frighten you. It came to finalize alignment. God says, the responsibility mentioned at the beginning has now shifted form. It is no longer a weight hanging over you. It is a mantle resting on you. You are no longer standing at the edge of decision. You are standing in obedience. And obedience changes how heaven responds to you. Archangel Michael declares that the anger spoken of earlier was never aimed at destroying you. It was aimed at destroying delay. Righteous urgency was released, so destiny would not be postponed any longer. And because you listened, because you stayed, because you allowed correction instead of closing your heart, heaven has recorded your response. God says this clearly. You are not under judgment. You are under covering. From this moment forward, what once felt fragile will stabilize. What once felt confusing will simplify. What once felt heavy will not return in the same way. This does not mean life becomes effortless, but it means you will not walk blindly again. Discernment have been sharpened permanently. Archangel Michael seals protection around your mind. Old thought patterns that tried to re-enter will be stopped at the gate. Peace will no longer be something you chase. It will be something that guards you. Even when challenges arise, they will not penetrate your inner foundation. God also seals your obedience with favor. Favor that does not shout but sustains. Favor that does not rush but remains. Favor that opens the right doors while quietly closing the wrong ones without drama. You will notice this favor in timing, in conversations, in avoidance of trouble you never even saw cunning. Heaven also releases rest over you, not laziness. Rest. A kind of rest that comes from no longer fighting internal battles that were never meant to continue. The striving ends here. From now on, effort will feel purposeful, not desperate. Archangel Michael says something powerful now. The message will not appear again because the season it addressed is closing. Heaven does not repeat warnings once obedience is received. The chapter is sealed. What follows is growth, stewardship, and continued guidance. Not correction of the same matter again. God reminds you that you are still teachable, still guided, still loved. This was never about perfection. It was about alignment. And alignment has been restored. As you move forward, do not diminish what just happened. Spiritual moments lose power when treated casually. Honor this shift. Active. Walk with awareness, not fear. Gratitude will keep you aligned more than effort ever could. Archangel Michael gives one final assurance. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are positioned. Now seal this moment in faith. Type, I accept divine responsibility in the comments if this message has completed something in your spirit. Blessing code 1441 is now activated. And now hear this final word flowing directly from heaven's heart. If this message has guided you, corrected you, and protected you, it is because God intends it to reach others standing at the same crossroads. I am speaking to you now. Yes, you, because your support is part of this assignment. When you release a super thanks, when you join membership, or when you sow through PayPal using the link in the description, you are not funding content. You are fueling obedience across nations. God says, those who build my warning platforms will never lack my provision. This is a prophetic act, not a suggestion. I bless every giver now. May open heavens rest over your finances. May clarity increase in your household. May protection surround your steps. Act now in obedience, and let your seed seal this word in power.